we're talking about how the presbytery so long ago was so strong. I mean, we had people who didn't have seminary training, people who were college trained, but who had become elders in the local church and who had become missionaries and eventually became ordained. So, but they worked very hard, and many of our churches at that time were very strong, simply because in those days there was, like no community center or all the things that we have these days, and so the church, in a sense, was the center of the community. People thought so much of their churches that it was really a spiritual, sacred place for them.
When I grew up, there was a lot of, people active in the churches. We go to church, we go to vacation Bible school, we go to young people's nights. Christianity was strong.
Well, because they had given up their traditional ways, the church became the hub of the community. Everything was done through the church, whether it was celebrations or birthdays or feasts or almost anything in the community was done through the church at that time. And it even served as a form of government. The elders of the church served as the leaders of the community.
The Indian pastors were committed, they were trusted, they were pastors, they visited the people, and they made the church what it was.
And I learned from my grandfather. I don't know where he acquired carpentry skills, but during his ministry, he would put his tools in the back of the buggy, and he did his calling. And he'd put in windows or build benches or tables for the parishioners. Now, no one would, I'm sure, ever remembered any of his sermons, but they remembered what kind of a man he was. And they would have some object that he made for them to remind him of his kindness.
Oh, my mother used to go to church every Sunday, and she used to take out her hymnal. And this was during the day. I mean, any time during the day, any day of the week, she'd go and sit down by the window, she had, bad eyesight. She'd take out her Indian hymn book and she'd sit there and sing and sing and sing for so long, and then she'd close up the hymn book and away she'd go and do her housework or whatever she's doing.
Some church called and says, I'll come and I'll try it for 2 years or 3 years. That's all I asked for, because I wanted to try all the churches, see if the Indians are the same each area, because we're in a large geographic area, non-geographic. So I wanted to know all, if they're the same thing, if they think the same thing. So when I was doing that, I found out that we are still Native Americans, and we think the same, but in our culture it's different, little different way, but we understand each other.
The churches then had their own Bible school, and we did not rely on outside people to come in and do the Bible schools. They did their own Bible schools, and this was something that was true in virtually all of the churches there on the Fort Peck Reservation. Traditional religion was, at that time, in the back burner. It was not something that was real prevalent. Early on, in the days of John P. Williams and Stephen R. Riggs and all, that the Christian was set apart from what was considered then, you might say, a pagan religion.
My mother would go to the powwows. We would go. She would take us. But our Christianity always came first. We would go watch and take in the powwow, but my mother and my dad's Christianity faith was very strong.
Christianity is something which I think we need to be faithful to what we believe. But that does not mean that we cannot learn, and we do not downplay native religion too, that there is a lot there to be learned and which is good. I have to say that some of the most wonderful Christian people that I've ever met, and I still will look to them as saints virtually, are numbered among the Indian people.